for the World Cycling Championship. 1983 World Champion Greg LeMond leads a world-class field of cyclists through a grueling road course requiring strength and endurance.
In few sports are the limits of human endurance challenged as they are in cycling. Capacities for physical and mental abuse are stressed to absolute maximums in a relentless individual quest for world championship acclaim.
Keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing on. Keep pushing, keep pushing. You know that we got to be so strong. Keep pushing, even if you think your strength is gone. Keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing on.
The setting is northern Italy, where 178 riders from 23 nations have gathered for the World Road Racing Championships of Cycling. Hello, I'm Gary Gerald, and we're pleased to welcome to our Sports World broadcast team for our coverage of the World Championships, Olympic gold medalist Mark Gorski, who will be lending his insight and his expertise into our coverage. Now, obviously, the World Championships have attracted the finest professional riders to be found anywhere, more than 175 in this competition, and the focus seems to be on two men. The famed Frenchman Bernard Hinault, 5 times winner of the Tour de France, and the young American Greg LeMond, who in 1983 stunned the cycling world with the first ever gold medal won by a U.S. rider in the championships. But this, Mark, is really a story much more than the two men, Hinault and LeMond.
Well, that's right, Gary. You've got several other riders that are going to be major factors in this race. LeMond and Hinault are going to be a little tired. They've had a long, tough season. They're not going to be as well rested for this event as they'd like to be. Among the other riders, you've got Sean Kelly from Ireland. He's a very, very tough sprinter. Phil Anderson from Australia. He's always an aggressive rider. And this World Championship could be decided by a sprint.
Now, the physical conditioning of these men is of the paramount importance. The course today, a staggering total of better than 165 miles. Let's take a closer look now at the circuit. And after a start at level elevation, there's an immediate climb of better than 500 feet, leading to what can be a very tricky downhill portion.
Well, once the riders reach the top of the climb, they've got a twisty turning descent. And at this point in the race, they can try and make a breakaway, get several seconds advantage. They'll be out of sight and out of mind of the riders behind them.
And once they successfully make that descent, they come into a flat portion once again, and the last 3 miles of each lap are on flat ground. So most likely we're anticipating that we'll see a sprint toward the finish. Now, the event is already underway. Let's go back and take a look at how it all began earlier in the day as this massive field pulled away from the grandstand area here at the start-finish line, anticipating roughly 6.5 hours in the saddle.
Well, in a race of this length, you don't really have any action until after 40 or 50 miles of racing.
Over the first 35 miles, Schlafhoff of West Germany and Eriksson of Denmark, here in the red jersey, opened up a 2.5-minute lead before they were reeled in by the pack. Hinault, the Tour de France winner, also had problems with a puncture. He's coming back after a serious knee injury.
Last year, I was handicapped by that injury, but since the end of 1984, I've not thought about it, and everything has been okay ever since.
As evidenced, of course, by his victory in the Tour de France this year. Thanks to help from teammates who pulled him back into the competition, the early problems for Hinault were solved. And as we join action now, we are roughly 100 miles into this 165-mile World Championship test. No surprises thus far. Everything seems to be settling into a fairly routine start, Mark.
We haven't seen any decisive moves by a LeMond or a Roche or an Anderson at this point. A break is in progress with an American, Doug Shapiro, who I think at this point is trying to cover any early moves, trying to help out LeMond at this point.
Now, how important is this business of help? It's really virtually impossible in a race of this length for just 1 or 2 riders to get off and do it on their own.
Yeah, but the thing is, LeMond wants to make sure that no dangerous riders are getting away at an early point in the race.
Now, this is Doug Shapiro. You see him in the Stars and Stripes, who is in this group, a Swiss rider. You saw the cross. And a couple of teammates working together here representing Belgium.
There are not any real strong, aggressive riders, any real, what I would consider favorites in the break at this point. It's not a dangerous group, or a group that's going to stay away till the finish of the race.
Now, what do they do specifically to try to work for each other, Mark?
Well, the basic idea is that he's sacrificing his own chances to win by having a representative from the United States helping LeMond in the breakaway. In case that breakaway would get 2 or 3 minutes up the road, Doug could impede the progress of the breakaway, not help the group, and work against the other riders so that they lose their advantage and will get caught eventually.
And the European term that we hear frequently is domestique.
That's right, which basically means a worker.
Oh, we've got a problem. Here's an incident, a major incident. We've got several riders on the pavement and a great deal of confusion as the rest of the pack has come across this accident scene. The first real problem that has now surfaced thus far in the championship, and there appears to be an American rider in that group.
There is one American rider down and a couple other Americans that have been slowed down by the crash. Frankly, Gary, I'm a little surprised we've had a crash like this in the pro road race.
And, of course, this is the lead group unaware of what's transpired behind them. This is going to work greatly to their advantage, I would think.
That's right. And when a crash occurs, there's a lot of pandemonium. The riders up front get very anxious. The race tends to string out. And you can see that there's a lot of action down there around the crash. Riders are trying to get wheels put back together so they can get going and continue the race.
So a good deal of confusion now as for the first time a major incident. We look now at the lead group unaware of what's happened behind them. Of course, the word will be filtering to them from team coaches along the way very shortly as they'll realize that now they're in a select group. They have broken away from the field. And we'll be back with more of the World Road Racing Championships from Northern Italy after this. European nations, cycling is a way of life among the general populace, but while the masses pedal at their leisurely pace, the finest road racing professionals in the world continue their determined pursuits of international prestige here in the Montello region of northern Italy. And at the moment, no one has yet to really break out on a serious bid to spread the field, but as you can see, the main pack now is in the process of reeling in those leaders that had the luxury of being out in front when we had that first incident, that crash that eliminated several riders.
Well, the earlier breakaway did not realistically plan to stay away, I don't think. The main group is catching them. They were not working in an organized fashion.
And a feeding process now going on as they come through this start-finish area.
It's very important for them to eat at this time well into the race because they need their energy for the finish of the race.
Now, what type of nutritional support are they getting here, Mark?
Well, they're eating rice cakes, bananas, fruit, things that are easily digestible.
And how many times does that happen over the course of 165 miles?
Well, they will generally eat every lap, every other lap, and take in a lot of liquids, too. Keeping yourself with water and other juices is very important.
Danish rider Jens Vegerby in red started a break here, but now it's the Irishman McCormick in green who has moved out in front.
Alan McCormick, they call him the Leprechauns, leading the break here. This would be a great story if he could get away at this point and lead the group.
Here's another problem on the climb here on the 12th tour of 18. We've got another massive pileup, and again we see American riders involved. You can clearly see stars and stripes, at least 2 of the American riders involved in this second major incident of the competition.
And you can see the rider in white at the right edge of your screen is going to hit a spectator. There's a very tight portion of the course. The spectators are very close, and crashes are really inevitable.
And with a crowd of some 300,000 lining this circuit, that is a problem that these riders face all day long. 5 men have now broken away from this latest incident. In the 5, there's the Frenchman Arnaud, Van de Velde from Holland, Ireland's McCormick, Bombini, the Italian, and Vegerby from Denmark. 5 men out in front as the rest of the group now tries to get sorted out after that major crash on the climb on the 12th lap.
These riders are very interested in breaking away. They've got their heads down, pounding, hammering those gears. And the riders behind, I think, are going to have to really work to catch these guys because they're working hard.
Now, we're 2/3 of the way through a 165-mile test. You can see that one of the Swiss riders here handing something back to his mechanics or his crew after he was involved in the incident trying to make repairs. You're 2/3 of the way. Is it still too early for this group of 5 to significantly get out here and be a threat to win?
I think it's a little early for this group of 5. I don't think they'll stay away to the finish. You can see on your screen how big of an advantage they have here. They've gained over a minute in a very short time, and they're working very, very hard. I think that a couple other riders may try and join them. That may be the breakaway that wins the race, but it is a little early yet.
McCormick in green now out in front after Vegerby, and the red and white had been leading, but this fives them now, and this could be the first true serious break. And again, Mark, you pointed out how hard they're working as we're now down on the flat portion of the course. They're pumping where they'll be coming down through the start-finish area.
Well, the main group is really relaxed right now. They're pedaling along easily. They're really not that worried about the breakaway. I'm a little surprised. There's only 50 miles left, but those 50 miles are going to be the toughest 50 miles of this bike race.
And the lead that's now enjoyed by that breakaway Fiveson has stretched out to well over 2 minutes as we've reached the 110-mile mark of 165. Now, the site of this competition is located less than 100 miles from one of the most unusual cities in the world, the city of Venice. Built more than 1,000 years ago as a means of defense against invading enemies, Venice is a city of islands linked by hundreds of bridges and countless miles of waterways.
And of course, no trip to Venice would be complete without at least a few minutes in one of the water taxis that ply the many, many waterways and canals of this amazing city. It's truly fascinating what they've done over hundreds of years here.
It really is. I think the road race might be a little tougher here on the canals than they are in the hills of Montello.
Well, for some, the thought of competition in Montello might be the farthest thing from their minds. Outside the city, the Montello region is a land of architectural delights, be it sprawling castles such as Conigliano, or perhaps a quiet villa overlooking the vineyards and the farmlands of the Asolo Valley. Not too far away, a covered bridge spanning the River Brenta at Bassano del Grappa, dating back to the 1200s, or the simple elegance of a World War I monument adjacent to the road course where the quest for the World Championship now presses on. And it's still 5 men battling in front, a Frenchman, a Dutchman, a man from Ireland, riders from Italy and Denmark. A 5-man breakaway here with less than 60 miles to go for the World Championships in cycling. We'll be back with more from Northern Italy. And now, back to our studio in New York. Back in Montello in northern Italy for continuing coverage of the World Championships, the road edition. I'm Gary Gerald along with Mark Gorski, and prior to the start of this professional event for men today, there were also road races for both men and women amateurs.
Well, we were expecting a very strong performance by the U.S. women, led by Rebecca Twigg, who was a silver medalist in the Los Angeles Olympics. But that was not to be the case.
In fact, it turned out to be a showdown between the Italian rider Maria Canines, number 59, and Frenchwoman Jeannie Longo, number 32, with Longo producing her first ever World Championship performance. The Americans tried to chase down the breakaway by Canines and Longo, but without success. Twigg ended up a disappointed 15th.
They've been riding well in the hills the whole year, and you know, I don't think that the race is any harder than last year. I just don't think that I was in shape.
In the men's amateur race, a couple of major crashes proved to be the big story. The Americans were not a factor. This was one of the early pileups, and it was a spectacular one, with nearly 20 riders down in a massive heap. Then later on, there was a second crash of lesser significance, but it was a long day for the Americans, and it was Lech Piasecki from Poland who won the gold.
Surprisingly, the East Germans and Russians were not a factor in this race either, neither of them finishing in the top 20.
But in the 100-kilometer team time trial, a distance of just over 60 miles, the Soviets came back with a world record 4-man performance.
The Italian team, shown here passing the disappointing American team, which finished 20th place, were the last remaining team to have a chance to beat the Soviets. They were unable to do that and finished 3rd.
And as we return now to action in the men's professional race, remember the total distance, 165 miles. We're down to within 20 miles to go. The American contender, Greg LeMond, seen in the center of the pack. And Mark, look at all the blue jerseys, the Italian riders in force.
Well, this is an interesting portion of the race, Gary. The Italians are lining up. I think they're censoring a dangerous point in the race with LeMond and the 2 Irishmen at the front.
One man and a top contender, however, now on the sidelines, Bernard Hinault, 5-time winner of the Tour de France, having an off day today. He is now out of the competition. And here's Jorgen Markussen of Denmark trying to make a break, trying to open up an advantage here on the climb on this, the 17th of 18 circuits. Remember, it's more than 9 miles per lap.
Stephen Roach, followed here by Greg LeMond, are chasing Markussen down. LeMond seems to be very much in control right here.
All of this now after 6 hours in the saddle. Greg LeMond, who 2 years ago stunned the world with a World Championship performance, the first time for an American ever to win the gold medal. He was second the preceding year. Last year in the World Championships, not a strong factor, but he appears to be riding strong in a commanding position now as he keeps his eye on Markussen. It was just a few years ago that LeMond and my colleague Mark Gorski frequently battled in road events. Mark had a chance to visit with Greg.
First thing I got to ask you, Greg, is when we were riding races together back in, we were 15, 16 years old, did you ever dream that you'd be the $1 million man, $1 million cyclist, winning the World Championships and second in the Tour de France?
I don't know. I never thought I'd come this far, no. But yeah, after I started winning a lot in America, I thought maybe I had some international potential in that, and I started I raced in Belgium when I was a junior, 16 years old, 17 years old.
I was there, I remember.
Right, and then I said, God, I could be a professional. And that's what I wanted to do. But you know, after I was 16 years old, I decided I wanted to work towards a professional career and make it a career. And if I didn't, you know, wasn't successful by the time I was 22, I was going to quit. That's what I told myself. So I went full bore, and I'm still at it.
I've seen cycling growing as a sport in the United States, a good deal of which is due to you. I think we're on the verge of an explosion in this sport, and I'd like to know where you think it's headed.
I hope it's headed for a big growth. I hope it gets as big as, say, jogging or, say, even tennis. I mean, that's really hoping for a lot. But if cycling gets half that size, if it half the size of jogging, it's going to be a very big sport. And I think it has the potential to be. I think that, you know, a lot of people ask why I don't race in America more often, so it would help the sport. And I honestly believe that me racing in the big international races where the top competition is, where it really counts internationally for road racing, is going to help cycling more than anything. And I hope that as the cycling gets bigger and there's more races in America, I'm going to go back there and race.
I got to ask you before we quit, how do you like being a dad?
Oh, it's great, yeah. It's better than being a world champion, I'll tell you that.
And right now in northern Italy, Greg LeMond seeking a second world championship, very much in the hunt as he pursues the new leader of the race. It's one of the Italians, Moreno, Argentin. And Mark, here's a rivalry that dates back a couple of years.
Gary, this is a real interesting story here. Greg LeMond is getting a little revenge here against Moreno, Argentin, who virtually sat on Greg's wheel, drafted off Greg nearly the whole championships in 1983, and there's no way that Greg wants to see Moreno, Argentin win this world championship in his home country.
And you can see now, before the masses, the hundreds of thousands here in northern Italy, that the pack has begun to spread out just a bit. It's Argentin in the lead, LeMond pursuing. The rest of the contenders now strung out as we near the final stages in this world championship pursuit.
Only the strongest riders left at the front of the group right now. I see number 12, Claude Coquillion, the defending world champion.
And Argentin has been caught. That's Mike Wilson of Australia in the white jersey, who has led a break now and has moved to the front. Argentin dropping back a few positions. LeMond just back behind him with a world championship gold medal on the line. We're nearing the final stages here in northern Italy. We'll be right back. Seen in another form, just a short distance from our location for the World Cycling Championships, the Villa Barbaro, built by famed architect Palladio more than 400 years ago. The sport of cycling dates back only 100 years in this land for the Italians, but it's a source of great pride. And at the moment, it's a Belgium rider, defending world champion Coquillion, who has now moved to the front. The Australian has fallen back off the pace. Greg LeMond is also right there. You see Australia in third position. Here's LeMond now into the fourth spot.
Now here goes another move by Mike Wilson up the right-hand side of the road. Claude Coquillion at the front, Greg LeMond at the front, not really responding. There's a lot of small attacks that are going to be happening in the next few miles. They can't respond to every one. They've still got the final climb to contend with.
Now, we should reiterate that these men have now been pedaling for more than 6 hours. We're coming to the final lap, roughly 10 miles to go out of 165. So I gather, Mark, that you still feel that Coquillion, LeMond, in this group setting back, is controlling the race.
They're controlling it. They're conserving their energy for one final move, be that on the climb, or is it they may be waiting for the final sprint.
Now, you said that we can expect several small breaks, and we can see now this lead group coming to the start-finish line with one tour yet to go, just over 9 miles now. They are indeed catching Michael Wilson. But the point here being, you expect at any time now that we're going to see these series of breakaways.
Typically, the last few miles of the race, you see a lot of attacks, individual attacks. A rider who tries to get off the front by himself, he'll go up the side of the road and try and do that.
Well, the importance of the breakaway and the timing are very, very critical. Here's Mark Gorski to fully explain.
Tactics and strategy play an instrumental role in bicycle road racing. Now imagine you're one of the top riders in this field today. You're riding along the field, resting comfortably, conserving your energy. Now, do you want to make your big attack by riding up through the field, weaving your way through the riders so that all the other top riders can see you? Get to the front of the field? No. It's not what you want to do. Now, you've got the wind coming from my right today. The way you want to make that big attack, by explosive move to the left-hand side of the road, going as hard as you can, and I'll show you just how to do it. Explode over to the left. The reason is staying in this opposite end of the road, in the left-hand gutter, no riders can ride in the left-hand side in your draft. You've got to stay out in the wind, unprotected. Now, a well-timed attack like this can gain you 10 to 15 seconds on the field, which just may win you the World Championship today.
Well, it is beyond my comprehension how anyone, after 6 hours, could even conceive of a possible breakaway. But that becomes the strategy as we now start the climbing portion of the final tour. And here is one of those breaks as we anticipated.
Gary, it's a Dutch rider, Gerard Veldskulten, making a quick move up the right-hand side of the road. The pack is organizing a chase behind him right now. Argentin and Le Mans are leading the chase group. They're not that worried about him at this point, but they don't want to let him get too far ahead.
And already you can see that they are dramatically closing ground, and it looks as if this breakaway indeed is going to be a very short-lived one.
Argentin, Le Mans, Roach are all very, very good climbers, and they're using this opportunity to work some of the other riders over, some of the sprinters over, who would be very strong at the end of the race. If they can push hard on this climb, they can take a lot of the sprint out of the legs of the good sprinters.
And Greg LeMond, who is a great climber, is trying to do exactly that right now. And Argentin doggedly pursuing him. A Spanish rider, a Dutch rider, all right there. This one, it looks like, is going to go right to the finish. Remember now, we're nearing the summit of the final climb. LeMond and Argentin still very much in command. But now, Roach in the green jersey, the Irish rider, making a break as we near the summit. And this looks to be a very serious bid.
This is a tremendous attack by Stephen Roach. Stephen Roach has saved his energy all day long, saving it for one big move right over the peak of the hill. He's timed it perfectly because now he can take advantage of the 50-mile-an-hour speed he'll reach on the downhill.
And if he can get around a couple of these corners by the time LeMond comes over the crest of the summit, he will be out of sight, and that puts it in a whole different perspective.
That's right, Gary. If Stephen Roach can get out of sight, then Greg LeMond will not know how far ahead Stephen Roach is. He can't afford to let a very, very strong rider like Stephen Roach get even more than a 10-second advantage at this point in the race.
Okay, the question now is we see Roach as he continues this attack and the breakaway as he starts the descent. If you're Greg LeMond, is there a sense of panic now?
Well, he's not panicking yet, but he's got to be pushing hard because he just cannot afford to let Stephen Roach get more than just a few-second advantage.
And here a good depiction now of the separation between the two. It's 2 full turns, at least 5 seconds between Roach and LeMond and the Italians. Now, you were talking about 50-mile-per-hour speed when they get into this downhill portion. Are there dangers involved now?
Well, the danger of crashing is not as great with a small field like this, but at 50 miles an hour, with only a few miles to go in this World Championship race, any number of these riders in this field right now are going to go for broke, take a risky move if they have to on a descent to try and get away and win this race.
Again, you can see the pursuing pack trying to reel in Stephen Roach. Roach, who finished third in the Tour de France this year behind Hinault and LeMond. And here's Greg LeMond trying to answer again now. A counterattack of his own as he tries to get up here and close the gap as the chase is on. And Joop Zoetemelk from Holland is the one who has just been passed by Greg LeMond, number 103, the first time that we have seen him in a potential contending position today, a veteran of some 15 years in the professional road racing ranks. LeMond working furiously, trying to reel in Stephen Roach of Ireland. Roach, who had that breakaway, but the advantage is now gone, and the sprint is on for the finish in the World Championships. We'll be right back. Back in the Montello region of northern Italy, Gary Gerald along with Mark Gorski now anticipating the drama of the final sprint. A near 6.5-hour ride in the men's world championships of road racing about to come to an end as we're nearing the final miles. They've made the descent. They're on the flatlands, and the charge for the finish is now underway. Kim Andersen of Denmark currently taking command here as the strategy really begins to play.
There's a lot of small attacks going on. Anderson's looking around. A lot of these riders that are left are looking for the right opportunity to attack individually with the hope that one or two other riders might join them and they can maintain a 3 or 4 rider breakaway to the finish.
How far can you go before that right opportunity comes up? Can it be as late as the last 100 yards?
I don't think anybody has conceded it to be a sprint yet, but everyone is waiting right now. You can see Joop Zoetemelk making a move up the left-hand side. But I've got to say right now, at this time, many of these attacks are insignificant because everyone is covering them at this point.
Zoetemelk out in front, but you saw Greg LeMond also clearly involved in the chase. The Italians right there with him. And there's Roach still very much in the hunt. A couple of more Dutch riders hoping to get into a position where perhaps they can aid Zoetemelk.
Moreno, Argentin, sitting right on Greg LeMond's wheel, drafting him very closely. I think he knows that Greg LeMond smells victory here. This would really prove Greg LeMond as the #1 rider in the world.
You see him looking around, and once again, here is Kim Andersen now from Denmark as he makes another move. The strategy, the battle of wills, trading back and forth. Who's it going to be in front as they come to the final couple of miles now after a long, long day, nearly 165 miles of this World Championship competition.
There's no decisive move being made yet. I think everyone is waiting for the sprint at this point. You've got 3 Dutch riders in there. Teamwork is going to play a big role in this sprint finish. Greg LeMond has no other American with him in that pack right now.
And making a move now, the Italian number 122. That's Claudio Corte, who last year was second behind Coquillon in the World Championships. First time now that we've seen him forge to the front.
Gary, I think what's interesting about this group of riders that's left right now is not one of these riders is a well-regarded sprinter. They're all climbers and very, very good endurance riders, but not one rider left here is well known as a good sprinter. I would say Greg LeMond probably has the best sprint of any of the riders left here.
So certainly that has got to work to his advantage.
Although he has no teammate in there, and with 3 Dutch riders together, there may be some teamwork going on.
Zoetemelk up at the top has now made a move as they make the final turn. We're still just over a mile to go, but Zoetemelk has now moved out in front. How serious is this bid?
Well, he seems to have 50 or 100 meters, but he's got 2 Dutch teammates working at the front, covering any counter moves.
So the teammates trying to slow down LeMond and the rest of the pack. Zoetemelk, who at age 38, considered by many to be too old to be a contender, is now the leader. And the sprint is on. We're within the final mile. After 164 miles, more than nearly 6.5 hours in the bikes, it comes down to this, with Zoetemelk of Holland, the current and surprising leader. And look at the distance that he has opened up on the rest of the field.
It's down to the final kilometer now, and that is a dangerous gap. Joop Zoetemelk has like 200 or 300 or 400 meter gap at this point, and there's 2 Dutch teammates that are covering the rest of the riders, not allowing them to chase.
You see him looking back underneath his shoulder, trying to gauge the distance now, trying to put the hammer down, working harder. Joop Zoetemelk, who at age 38, not considered a factor, making a determined bid to try to steal the World Championships. Where is LeMond? How will they respond to this challenge?
The Dutch rider in second place in the chase group, so you can see the Italian rider waving. He needs help to chase down Zoetemelk. There's only 300 or 400 meters left in the race right now, and he has a 500-meter gap on them.
And Joop Zoetemelk, you get the feeling that he has stolen this one. He is now out in front. You see the separation. The rest of the pack now furiously trying to make up the distance. Zoetemelk looking back just as they make the turn. Joop Zoetemelk is going to steal this race.
This is incredible. Zoetemelk at 38 years old is going to win the World Championship
he's got it.
race.
Arms in the air. Joop Zoetemelk crosses the line. The world champion, and what a stunning surprise. Greg LeMond, who we thought was in control, nosing out Argentin, it appeared, for second place.
What you can see here on the replay, Joop Zoetemelk's move with about a mile to go, the second to last corner to the finish. He takes a beautiful inside line, a very clever move that gained him an additional 5 seconds, and it was a key to his getting away and winning this race. As Zoetemelk comes down the finishing straight, he knows he's got it won. He's celebrating his victory. You can see LeMond and Argentin
battling it out in what we thought was going to be the sprint for the World Championship, battling it out for second place, a dangerous sprint. Le Mans just edges out Argentin for second.
So no second World Championship for the American Greg LeMond. Instead, it's the Dutch rider Joop Zoetemelk, the man of the hour, winning for the first time. Mark is now with Greg LeMond.
Greg, an unexpected finish to a race that you seem to totally control. What do you think about that?
I think in a road race, sometimes you have to have a lot of luck to win a race. I think I was really the strongest today, but the course really wasn't hard enough to select the best riders. There were a lot of guys there that normally shouldn't be there, and it was a matter of chance when he got away, and I didn't really have enough teamwork to pull him back. If I would have chased him down, I probably would have lost everything. I was counting on the Italians to work and chase him down.
You seem to be alone out there a little bit. Did you have to react? Were you the only one reacting to his move?
Yeah, Argentin went after him. Moreno, Argentin went after him, and I went with him. But still, it was just too close to the finish. It was 300-400 meters before 500 meters before the finish, and you're thinking of the sprint and everything. And I mean, it's too bad that I couldn't have caught him, but that's the way racing goes.
So after 6.5 hours, 165 miles, Zoetemelk, the surprise winner, Le Mans second, Argentin of Italy in the number 3 spot. So we expected drama, we expected excitement, we certainly got all of that. We expected a group sprint, but I don't think anybody here expected that the 38-year-old veteran Zoetemelk would be the man who ends up with the gold medal. An incredible finish, Mark.
It was truly an unbelievable victory by Zoetemelk. He would have been the most unlikely rider that anyone would have predicted to win this race. A great finish by Greg LeMond to get second place. He was clearly the power of the race.
So that's the story from Northern Italy. For Mark Gorski, I'm Gary Gerald, bidding you so long from the World Championships. And now, back to our studio in New York.